evening. Good evening and welcome. My name is Deanna Bremer Fisher and I'm the Executive Director of Future Heights. We're a nonprofit community development corporation serving Cleveland Heights and University Heights, and we're one of 3 community-based organizations that are sponsoring tonight's forum. Future Heights is dedicated to promoting a vibrant and sustainable future for our community through communication, collaboration, engagement, and empowerment. We work to strengthen neighborhoods through civic engagement, planning, creative placemaking, and the rehabilitation of vacant and abandoned homes. We publish the Heights Observer community newspaper to help keep our community informed about local issues and promote community discussion. I hope you've seen some of the discussion about issue 26 in the pages of the February issue, and copies of that issue are available in the lobby tonight. The work that Future Heights does is made possible by donations from the community, and we encourage you to become involved. Membership brochures are available in the lobby, and you can find us online at futureheights.org. One of our co-hosts this evening is the Cleveland Heights University Heights chapter of the League of Women Voters of Greater Cleveland. This unique, nonpartisan political organization is recognized for its impartiality and is respected for its role in promoting informed and active participation in government and advocating for good government policies. The League is valued by both voters and by candidates and elected officials because it insists upon and makes possible the fair exchange and expression of views upon which our democracy depends. The work that the League does is made possible by member dues and donations and the dedication of League volunteers. And more information about becoming involved in this organization is also available in the lobby and at their website, my.lwv.org/ohio/greater-Cleveland. Our final co-host this evening is Reaching Heights, a citizen voice for public education and a resource for the students and educators of the Cleveland Heights, University Heights Public Schools. Reaching Heights believes that our students deserve the best education possible. They also know that the success of our schools is everybody's business and that successful schools are a critical part of a successful community. Reaching Heights' Many Villages tutoring program, exceptional children's advocacy group, and summer music camp are just some of the excellent programs that it offers to the community. These would not be possible without community support, and you can learn more about how to get involved with Reaching Heights at reachingheights.org. Our 3 organizations are pleased to sponsor tonight's public forum on issue 26, an operating levy for the Cleveland Heights, University Heights City Schools that will appear on the March 17th ballot. I think all of us would agree that our children are our future and that quality education is important to the future of our community and our democracy. How we fund education in Ohio, however, is a complex issue. In Ohio, public school districts are funded through a combination of state funds, local sources such as property taxes, and federal funds. In 1976, Ohio House Bill 920 was passed, which froze property taxes at the amount they were assessed in the original year of assessment. There's no built-in inflation factor for running school districts, and yet costs do increase with inflation. And this is why school districts are forced to put levies on the ballot periodically. And as I'm sure we'll hear from tonight's panelists, this situation has become even more complex with the growth of the Ohio Ed Choice Scholarship Program. The cities of Cleveland Heights and University Heights have some of the highest property taxes in the state of Ohio. And we know that this fact impacts decisions on whether or not to invest in property or purchase a home in our cities. When taxes increase, this affects the budgets of existing residents as well. Our cities need strong schools in order to thrive, but we also need to ensure that our tax rates are not overly burdensome. I want to thank our panelists for participating tonight, and I want to thank all of you for taking the time from your busy schedules to be here and become more informed about this issue. We also want to thank the City of Cleveland Heights for this excellent space, and DigiZoom Media, who is recording tonight's event. The video recording will be available on the League of Women Voters website, and the other organizations will also have links to that as well. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. Restrooms are conveniently located just across the hall. And then out of respect for our panelists, I just ask that everybody silence their cell phones and other noise-making devices so that we don't interrupt as they begin their talk. And so with that, I'd like to introduce our moderator for this evening, Wendy. Please help me welcome Wendy.
Thank you, Deanna. I come prepared with gavel. And welcome to everybody. I will be moderating our program for this evening. I would like to thank all of you for making a concerted effort to become fully informed voters for this election. Local government has a major and direct impact on our daily lives, but unfortunately, local elections consistently have the lowest voter turnout. This is a forum to hear from and question the two panels representing the pro and con viewpoints of the current school levy for the Cleveland Heights University Heights School District. Before we begin the forum, the rules. We ask everyone to refrain from wearing partisan items such as campaign buttons inside this room. Campaign materials may be placed on the literature table outside in the lobby. This room is for the fair exchange of information for the benefit of everybody. Each panel will have 5 minutes for an opening statement and 2 minutes for a closing statement after the question and answer session. Time limits will be enforced. Our timer will give the speakers a 60 and a 30-second warning and a signal when their time has ended. Only written questions will be accepted. Succinct questions should be addressed to one panel, and the opposing viewpoint will have the opportunity to answer if appropriate. Raise your hand if you would like to receive a card on which to write your question or to turn in a card, although I will note that we have a goodly number of questions already. The panels will have up to 90 seconds to answer, as some of the questions might require a more detailed response. Please note that the issue of the EdChoice vouchers is being decided by the state legislature, and so we will limit any voucher questions to only those which are controlled by the local school board and the school administration. We will not debate the pro and con of the vouchers themselves. League screeners will review submitted questions. This is not to block opinions or to skew information, but it is in order to avoid duplication, provide a diversity of questions, and ensure readability and appropriateness. And finally, we ask the cooperation of the audience in avoiding expressions of support or opposition during the presentation time or answers to questions. This only takes time away from all of us, and time is precious. To once again quote Thomas Jefferson, "Information is the currency of democracy. May you be made wealthy by your presence here tonight." The order of speaking has been determined by drawing lots and will be reversed for the closing statements. First, we will hear from the citizens for our Heights schools. The two panel members presenting for the Citizens for Heights schools are Superintendent Elizabeth Kirby, who began working in the Cleveland Heights University Heights School District in August of 2019. Most recently, Ms. Kirby served as Chief of School Strategy and Planning for Chicago Public Schools from 2015 to 2019. She spent a total of 23 years in the Chicago Public Schools as a teacher, principal, and central office administrator. Ms. Kirby is a native Clevelander and received her BA at Harvard University and her MA at the University of Chicago. Chrissy Dietrich Gallagher loves living in the Heights. She grew up here, graduated from Heights High, and returned to raise her family in this community precisely because of the schools. Formerly a public school teacher, Chrissy is now a freelance journalist, frequently writing for the CHUH Communications Department, and author of the forthcoming nonfiction book, Under the Chilean Sky. She is a public speaker for local and national nonprofits, a childhood cancer fundraiser, and a mother of 2 boys, getting an excellent education in the Heights schools. We now have the opening statement from Citizens for our Heights schools. You have 5 minutes. Yes, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Liz Kirby, and I have been the superintendent in CHUH for about 6 months. Like many educators, I know teaching has been a part of my life for as long as I can remember. I am the daughter of 2 educators, and I remember teaching my younger sister how to read when I was 5, and she was 1. She wasn't reading at 1. I launched a tutoring program for fellow students when I was in high school, and ultimately I chose teaching as a profession, although I would have to admit my father did not want me to do that because he wanted me to make money and become an attorney. However, teaching is in my DNA. It is something I'm very passionate about, and I'm also a native Clevelander, so it's great to be back in the area so that I can spend more time with my family and I can cheer for our sports team in a friendly environment. Having spent the last 23 years in Chicago, I've had to quickly learn the workings of school funding in a state that not only funds its public schools through local tax levies, something Illinois does not do, but also siphons state funds meant for public schools into private school tuition vouchers. It was my August surprise. The EdChoice voucher system as it is currently funded is disastrous for districts like ours, and as you see in the news, disastrous for districts all across the state. The state of Ohio is forcing the Cleveland Heights University High School District to pay out more than $7 million in vouchers alone this year, and they're doing absolutely nothing to help fill that hole. This is unsustainable, and we know will have devastating consequences if it is not fixed. So, that is why our board and our administrators have been making trips to the State House recently to testify in front of legislators about the harm that's being done to districts like ours. In fact, I see at least one of those students in the audience who testified over the weekend. Raise your hand, yes. You'll hear us discussing a lot of numbers tonight in many different contexts, but one thing I want to make clear is that we are here to provide a service for our students, and we are doing so at a spending rate that is very similar to our peer districts. According to the state report card, we spend just over $14,000 per student. That is only slightly higher than similar nearby districts who spend a little over $13,000 per the student on average. The beautiful thing about the public school model is that we serve all students. That includes students with special needs, those who live in poverty, high achieving and gifted students who require their own services and opportunities. We are truly a melting pot in Cleveland Heights University Heights. These groups represent a significant portion of our student population, and we are honored and privileged to serve each of these students and their peers. We value this diversity. All of this combined with our commitment to excellence in the arts and music and equitable opportunities for all of our students means that yes, we end up spending an ever so slightly higher amount per student. We are proud of what we offer and we hope to protect our programming. Now, people have very strong opinions on both sides of these issues, both EdChoice and Issue 26. And rightfully so. We're talking about children and we're talking about our money. Two of the most deeply personal and emotional topics for people. Yes, we are already an overtaxed community. We are asking an already overtaxed community for more money. But this is the position that we find ourselves in. Without this levy, we will be forced to make cuts that will deeply affect our ability to provide an outstanding experience for students. I can't bear the thought of taking away access to sports and music and arts and leadership positions. I am not willing to look at all of these students gathered here tonight and tell them, sorry, you can't take the AP class that your older brother took, we had to cut it, or no, you can't be in the musical that you couldn't wait to get into high school to participate in. We don't have the money to play high school sports, sorry, you have to pay to play here. I am not willing to do that. The idea of removing access to social workers and psychologists for students in need is maddening to me. I've spent a lot of time learning about our district. We have talented, dedicated students, teachers, families, and residents. We have great success in our AP Honor Roll achievement recently, and one of our elementary schools being designated as a school that is making great momentum in the state. I look forward to celebrating many more down the road, but if the levy fails, we will not be able to build on our achievements. It will be devastating for us, our students, and community.
Thank you very much. And turning now to the Tiger Nation for lower taxes. Our two presenters this evening are Maureen Mo Lin, the treasurer of Tiger Nation for lower taxes. She is self-employed with her consulting business, Mo Lin Consulting LLC. Mo and her family moved to Cleveland Heights in May of 2011. Previously, she lived in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Indianapolis, Chicago, and Pittsburgh. Mo volunteers on several boards: Penn State Industrial Engineering Department, Foundry Educational Foundation, St. Anne Endowment, COS Athletics, and the Forest Hill Swim Club. Rob Schwab is in a permanent state of semi-retirement with GLG Consulting to advise private equity firms on opportunities in the financial services industry and serves as a FINRA arbitrator. After living in 6 other cities, he has settled his family in Cleveland Heights in 2000. One of his 2 daughters attended Heights High, and a granddaughter attends Roxborough Elementary. He has been an officer and a current trustee of Verve Ballet. The Tiger Nation now has 5 minutes.
I want to mention there's noise, voices coming from the table over there. It's distracting. Sorry. Great. Okay. Can I see a show of hands? Residents? Who's residents here? Okay, good. Well, our message is for all of you. The entire community will be better off now and in the future if you vote no to this tax increase. Our public schools are important, but they're not the only need and not the only concern of Heights residents. The school board is simply taking too big a piece of the economic pie and with harmful consequences to the city. By the measure of school taxes paid, according to our incomes, we are already the most generous district in Ohio in support of public education. Our teachers and staff are paid in the highest tier in every category, and we spend 33% more per pupil than similar districts. And we spend almost twice the state average. And this will still be the case without the levy. Under the proposed levy, a home with assessed value of $150,000 will pay an additional $414 a year and over $6,000 in total. But we are a low and middle income inner ring suburb. The median household income is $57,000, with large pockets of poor, fixed income, seniors, and elderly struggling to stay in their homes. Some have paid taxes here for decades. A $300 tax increase is a hardship for them. And by the way, who are these households? Well, over 90% of the Heights student body is classified as economically disadvantaged. And that includes their parents, too. Perhaps that's why some school parents are quietly admit to us that they will vote no. According to the Cleveland Heights Housing Department, we have accumulated $12 million in tax delinquencies. So, many properties cannot afford to pay the current tax rate. As a community, it appears we lack the buying power to support a Walmart, a movie theater, or other stores in Severance. The city is desperate to attract development with tax credits and tax abatements. We've become very accustomed to prosperity. But an economic rainy day will come, and our high tax structure and maxed out city debt will be ruinous. Many more tapped out citizens will default on their homes, and that default rate will climb much higher. Last year, some city council members wanted to make Cleveland Heights a sanctuary for refugees, and lawn signs welcome refugees. But why aren't we a sanctuary for our seniors who want to stay in their homes? And why don't we welcome young families and newcomers and not discourage them from coming here with high taxes? Despite the lawn signs, we are not welcoming people. The U.S. Census and recent estimates showed several unhealthy trends. Cleveland Heights has been steadily losing population. This is reflected in the steadily lower school enrollment numbers over time, declining from 7,500 to about 5,000. We have fewer families in this community and fewer homeowners. This levy would make the Heights notorious as having the #1 highest property tax rate in Ohio. Every news article on cost of living will list Cleveland Heights as #1 in taxes, and that chases away people. We are always in a precarious position to maintain the quality of our housing. These homeowners don't have $300, $400 for additional taxes. They need to buy paint and repair their homes. Landlords cannot pass along all the tax increases. Some of it results in less investment and lower quality properties, which attracts more low-income residents and more problems. So, keep in mind that with all these circumstances, here comes the highest spending school district in Ohio, asking the most generous and the most highly taxed residents for even more. Who will look at the needs of the entire community? Not the union, not the school board, not the superintendent, with all due respect. Only the responsible citizen can vote no and keep the Heights affordable.
Thank you very much. We turn now to the question and answer portion of this evening. And once again, if you would like a card to submit a question, or if you would like to turn in a question, just raise your hand. Questions will be limited to a maximum of 90 seconds with a 30-second warning. The first question, I will present the question to one side or the other as appropriate, but the opposing side will have the opportunity to answer if they wish. The first question will go to the Citizens for Heights Schools. Instead of instructional layoffs, are there other ways to reduce expenses?
Thank you for that question. Yes, we have been engaging in reducing expenses for the past 5 to 6 years. In fact, we've been cutting between $750,000 and $1 million every year, not with just layoffs, but also being creative in terms of how we engage in technology in the district. We went to the Google Suite that saved us money on licenses. We have contracted our lunch services out that also has saved money as well. And so, we look at our not only our teaching staff, but the full staff every year. We look at our systems instructors and how we operate the district, and we make responsible cuts to really demonstrate great fiscal stewardship. So that's why we're able to stretch our current levy longer, and without the challenges of Ed Choice, we wouldn't be asking to go on the ballot until 2023.
Thank you. Do you have a chance?
Thank you. That's a great question. Thank you, Ms. Kirby. Even with the cuts, the school district is still the 4th highest spending per student in the whole state of Ohio. So we, several members of our community, have sent requests to the school board asking for the state to perform a performance audit. So they will come in and they will do a full-fledged audit of all the aspects within the schools and recommend areas that we can cut costs. So we feel while the school is doing things to cut costs, that they can be better instead of imposing the taxes on us, which we are already one of the highest tax communities in all of the state of Ohio.
Thank you. Not surprisingly, these questions are primarily directed to the school district, to the Citizens for our Heights. Next question is, when will the district conduct a performance audit with the state?
So I actually think that there's a misunderstanding about the performance audit on the part of the opposing side. We actually engage in multiple audits every year from the state. So we have an outside process. We also have an internal process where we're looking at our costs and we're looking at our needs and making those costs accordingly. So we've been very responsible with the funds that we have. We not only conduct a performance audit on the fiscal work, we also conduct audits on the instructional work that's happening in the district as well.
And I would just like to add that the performance audit that has been requested by many people who are part of the anti-campaign it doesn't actually look at instructional spending, And instructional spending is 67% of what we spend the district's budget on, as is appropriate, because it's a school district that should be instructing. So it really, a performance audit, it's been done in the past, and they found that it took a lot of time, it took money, it took effort, and that they didn't really learn all that much valuable information from it.
Thank you. Just so everybody's kind of aware of what the performance audit entails. So Ohio is offering these performance audits as a cost savings tool. The Ohio Performance Team conducts all performance audits for the auditor of the state's office. The team is made of professionals with a blend of government and industry backgrounds, as well as in-depth experience in research, operations, and management. They seek to develop recommendations that provide detailed steps towards improving performance, generating real change within the organization, and offering clear benefits for the ultimate customer, the taxpayer. So while they're not looking at instructional, they're finding other areas of cost savings. We're not asking for instructional savings. We're asking them to come in and find other areas that there clearly can be a cost savings. And why not open it up to find those cost savings instead of continuing to impose the taxes on the community that is already overstretched. We cannot afford this. Our most vulnerable are the ones at risk right now, and that's what we need to understand. We have to think about our retired, our fixed income, our low income, the people that are impoverished, and that is who we are here representing. Thank you.
Thank you. Why doesn't Cleveland Heights University Heights participate in open enrollment? Wouldn't that bring in money and offset the impact of declining enrollment?
Well, right now, no matter how many kids we bring in, we're not getting additional funding. And so if we were to open our enrollment up, that would impact the quality of education that we're currently offering our students. So we definitely believe that our monies and our resources should be serving the students within our community. In fact, the limited amount per student that we're currently receiving from the state would be reduced even more with open enrollment.
If I could ask a clarifying question, because the term open enrollment is, I don't know exactly what that means.
So that would mean that students who live outside of the Cleveland Heights University Heights School District would be able to come and attend our schools. Usually when that happens, the home school district, the residential school district, pays out $6,000 per student. But because the state budget froze all school districts' funding for 2 years, then we wouldn't get that funding for any students who chose to come in. The other thing is if our district did opt to do that, that it may cause other nearby school districts to decide to do open enrollment, and as we get some students in from communities, we might also simultaneously lose some of our students to other communities. It's hard to predict.
Thank you very much. Tiger Nation, or yes, do you want to respond to Tiger Nation?
I mean, I think at least an analysis should be made to see if there is any advantage to it. They do get $6,000 for the students that would come into the school district from other districts. And maybe those students do need a better option too. So again, it would be helped with a choice maybe for a district that needs to have their child in a better school system and they want to send their kids to the Cleveland Heights University Heights school system.
Maybe it would bring more families to live here.
Exactly, and maybe they love it and they want to move here, and that would be an advantage to the entire community.
The statement was made that as long as the freeze is on from the state, the school will not receive that $6,000. It also won't lose $6,000 if someone transfer out to another district, but the funds are frozen currently. Question for Tiger Nation. How will our community be better off if the schools make cuts and people no longer want to live or move here because we don't have strong schools?
Well, we'll share that. I moved here in 2000, and school district's been making that argument for 20 years, and it hasn't proved to be true. In fact, We've lost, enrollment has declined, as I mentioned in my statement, from about 7,500 to 5,000. So we're losing students. We're not, and our spending is increasing far faster than inflation, and to the point that we're at the top of the state. So that has not worked. So it hasn't worked for 20 years, and I don't see any reason to think that it's going to work going forward.
Would school, citizens like to, oh, yes, I'm sorry. No, that's fine. Yes.
And again, we have to understand that with this levy, we will be the #1 taxed community in the entire state of Ohio. So we need to think of everybody that lives in our community, not just the schools. The schools are extremely important, and we are generously funding them. They're the 4th highest expenditure per student in the state of Ohio. So we have to understand they're not being underfunded. We are generously funding them with our tax dollars. Even with the lack of state funding, they still are getting a lot of funding, and they should be able to live within their means and still offer all the programs and services that they continue to have.
I'll just add one. And the budget is in the neighborhood of $113 million for 5,000 students.
Yeah, I would like to say that we actually are not the highest taxed community, and even if the millage passes, the millage in Cleveland, in the Cleveland part of that connects with Shaker Heights, would be higher than ours. In Shaker Heights, it would be higher than ours, and in South Euclid, it would be higher than ours, as they are currently higher than ours, and would remain even if that passes.
And the other thing is, I think that the numbers game is really an attempt to strike fear in the hearts of people. And there's a lot of manipulation we're seeing in the information coming from the other side on this issue, which is really unfortunate and quite stressful for our students. The bottom line is that we know when a community invests in its schools, the community is better off, home values improve, students have many more opportunities, and it pays it forward for the community, such that everyone who lives in the community benefits when we invest our time and our money in our schools. Unfortunately, in the state of Ohio, schools are funded by levies. I think it's really strange. I think it's crazy, but we know we have in our area 9 other districts that are also going to their communities for a levy. So this is not something that is unique, but we know that this is a community that will stand up to support its students as it has done many, many times before.
Thank you. Important question for the citizens for our Heights schools. Why do other cities wait years between operating levies, such as Solon or Beechwood, but we have them every 3 to 4 years?
That's an excellent question. Many of us have chosen to live in this community because of its unique characteristics and because of its location. We do not have access to freeways. They tried that about 50 years ago, and people stood up and fought against it. We don't have enormous industry, we don't have factories, we don't have malls. And so what that means, unfortunately, is that the lion's share of the tax burden falls onto homeowners' shoulders. So it's the very things that make us unique and special that also put us in this difficult position. The ironic thing about this year's school levy is that after the 2016 levy passed and came into effect in 2017, the school district since then has made $5 million in cuts. That was after a levy passed. Those $5 million in cuts have meant that there would not be a need for a school levy until the year 2023. And I gotta say, that's unheard of to stretch a levy for that many years. I've lived here for a long time, and I never recall a levy that's lasted for 6 or 7 years like that. And so the only reason that we are on the ballot right now is because of the hole that the state has put us in with Ed Choice vouchers. The school district is living within its means. It has cut its expenses, and now it is being forced by outside players into this really difficult position.
Thank you. Director Wisdom.
I'm going to read from the audited financial numbers from the state of Ohio for the fiscal year 19. Total expenditure per pupil. Can you hear me? Total expenditure per pupil. Cleveland Heights, $21,222. State average, $12,433. $472, almost double. Similar districts, so I'm not comparing us to Wapakoneta, similar districts, $14,924, again, to our $21,000. And our budget, our revenue to spend in total, about $113 million. We are generous. There is a lot of money. And we will go on, I think, in some other discussion to talk about why our expenses are so high.
Thank you.
And just to add to that, so since 2000, there have been 6 levies that have passed in the Cleveland Heights, University Heights School District for over $40 million. In addition to that, us taxpayers are also paying a $135 million bond to help improve the capital in the schools and the high school. So we have been generous. There's been many levies and the $135 million bond to support the schools.
Thank you. To the citizens side first, does it make sense to ask for a renewable levy instead of a permanent levy?
I think that we have found ourselves in a unique situation because the state legislature is debating what to do with Ed Choice vouchers right now. And so I think that's why that question exists. A renewable levy can lead to a lot of unpredictability in the district's need to create its budgets. The district is forced to create 5-year budgets, whereas the state operates on these 2-year cycles. So those those factors right there already put things at odds and make it really hard to plan for things. The reality is the state of Ohio has never come through for communities like ours. They have not shown that they care about communities like ours. The only reason that they are currently debating Ed Choice vouchers is because suddenly it has started to impact red districts, and I don't mean red school districts, I mean red congressional districts, and the Republican state officials who represent those districts, their backs are against the wall right now, and right when they come up with a solution for Ed Choice, I can pretty much guarantee you that it's going to help out schools like Solon and Upper Arlington and Brecksville Broadview Heights, and that no one has any intention of helping a school district like ours. Or they would have done it years ago.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, I don't know if everybody's aware of what's going on within the legislation right now, but the current Ed Choice Scholarship Program was set to go into effect on February 1st. But legislators said, we know that this is a problem, there's a funding issue, so they decided to delay it until April 1st. So with that delay, they're actually working out right now. They're talking about reducing the amount of underperforming schools, which has greatly hurt our school district. So they're looking at reducing it from 1,200 to 420 schools, which will eliminate a lot of the Cleveland Heights schools off of the Ed Choice vouchers. And then with addition to that, they're offering another $10 million. They haven't figured out how it's going to be distributed, but to help these underfunded schools such as ours. So they are working on it, and unfortunately, this is how government goes. It takes time. They ping pong back and forth. They don't have anything figured out. But the deadline is April 1st. So the schools are asking for $8.8 million more of our taxes before not even knowing what the true impact is going to be come April 1st. So they're asking for $44 million more dollars from us over 5 years when we don't even know what the true impact of the Ed Choice scholarships are going to be. We're asking to hold off, wait, we can think this through, do a performance audit, and figure out what the true cost is going to be.
Thank you. To the citizens' side first, what would the consequences be for the schools if the levy waits until November, by which time hopefully the legislature would have fixed the voucher issue?
Thank you for that question. I want to also address some other misconceptions that were stated. The first, around Ed Choice, We are confident that the state solution will do nothing to help us. We know that there's a lot of rhetoric that is bandying about an upcoming fix. Given the $7 million loss this year alone, we know that the state of Ohio is not going to write us a check for $7 million to deal with our issues. That's the first thing. The second thing, the $21,000 per student cost does not accurately reflect the true cost. We actually are at the around 14,000 per student. And if you go on the website, you'll see on ODE's website on the report card, you'll see that being our true cost. The state does a calculation where they take into account the amount it takes to fund students that have special needs, that have IEPs. Our population has about 19% of our students have an IEP and have a range of needs. We know that that can be very expensive to adequately support students, and that's something we're committed to do.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
But she has more time.
What's at stake is, actually, what's at stake if the levy passes, it's not only for the school, if it fails, it's all of our schools, but also our community. We really will be on a train to devastation without the funding. We are going into a strategic planning process right now. We have August plans to build on our successes that we have made across all of our goal areas. We will not be able to negotiate a contract with our teachers for a sustained amount of time. We will be making disastrous cuts across the board. And we really want to make sure that we can protect our wonderful programs and opportunities for students.
I apologize.
Timer put up the wrong card, in case you were wondering. Would you like to respond?
What the question was.
Why not wait until,
What was the impact?
what would the consequences be for the schools if the levy waits until November?
It'll be certainly the responsibility for the school board and the executive leadership of the school to manage the budget that they have. We are ready and anxious to cooperate in the process of finding more efficient ways to operate and cost cuts and more cost-effective ways. And especially a new approach to collective bargaining is pretty obvious also.
Ms. Kirby likes to put out that $14,400 per student cost. If that is the case, for the 5,000 students in the district, they would only need $75 million of revenue. Currently, total revenue from all taxes is $130 million. So that is not what we taxpayers are paying to the schools. We're not paying $14,400 to each student. We are paying $130 million. You can look at it. It's on the Cleveland Heights, University Heights Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. Their revenue in 2019, total revenue, was $130 million.
Thank you. Too many questions. A question to the Tiger Nation side. You say that if taxes go up with this levy, it will discourage people from moving in. However, trends statewide are finding a correlation between failing school levies and a decrease in home values. Would you like to speak to that trend?
Our home values decreased quite easily with or without levies. It really hadn't made a difference. Home values have been very stagnant here for about 15 years. Our median home sales price, as of July 2019, has just caught up to 2006. So we've had how many levies since 2006? So passing levies has done nothing to help home values in Cleveland Heights.
Just in addition to that, at at over a 4% tax rate, that will be most likely in many cases, more than the homeowner will be paying in their mortgage statement. So they'll be paid more in taxes per month on average than what they actually pay for their mortgage. To put equity, to build equity into their home, more of it is going in taxes. That is not a desirable thing for people to move into a community. They don't want to pay more in taxes than building equity into their home.
So we know that this is a high-tax community, and we're not thrilled about that either. And we wish that we weren't in the position that we're in, where we have to come and ask people to raise their taxes. We get it. We live in a high-tax community. We want people to want to move into the Heights. That is important to all of us. We love living in the Heights, and we want other people to come here and live here with us. But Mr. Schwab said himself, passing and failing school levies hasn't made a difference in home values. That's what he said just a few minutes ago. So if that's the case, then failing this school levy will make a difference to the school district, to its ability to do its job, to its ability to educate the children. So if it doesn't make a difference to home values, failing the levy is not going to make us a low-tax community. People aren't going to suddenly move here because we're a low-tax community. Let's keep our schools strong. Let's keep the momentum. Let's help them move forward. We have a brand new superintendent who comes here highly qualified, who has like dived in big time, is that the right word? And let's not tie her hands behind her back. Let's let her carry forward on this mission. And let's not tie her hands behind her back, which is what a failed school levy would do.
Thank you. To the citizens for Heights Schools, another question, explanation question. Why do we have so many buildings owned that are not used as elementary, middle, or high schools? Shouldn't these be sold before asking for more money?
So as you know, we actually over time have been reducing our footprint in terms of buildings that we have online that we have being used. We are currently in the process of looking at the usage of some of our buildings that are empty. One of our sites, for example, we use with our trades, that's Milliken. But we're also looking to see, and a lot depends upon what happens with the levy, what we will do with the Wiley building, for example. We really want to make a big investment in pre-K and primary education. We have a committee that is out there right now looking at national models and researching what would be the best educational experience that we can offer for all of the families here for students who are 3 and 4 and 5 through second grade. However, because of the need of the levy, we've had to put that work on hold because we don't know fiscally what type of situation we'll be facing as relates to serving the needs of students, potentially even making cuts in our current programs. So we're going to be forced to make cuts in our current programs. We for sure can't expand programs into our other buildings. But our board has been engaged in a very careful process of looking at the facilities and making sure that we're making wise decisions as relates to the use of those facilities. So if we do have a failed levy, and even if we don't, there's a likelihood that maybe we will have to do some building closures to make sure that the footprint makes sense. It's a commitment. We've been engaged in this process. One of the first things we've been doing prior to knowing that we were going to put the levy on the ballot is looking at facilities usage to make wise decisions.
Let me clarify. Since 2006, our home values have been stagnant, and we have passed how many levies? 8, 9, 10? 5 since 2006. So passing, just to clarify, passing levies has not helped our home values. The other point that I want to remind people about is that when I came to Cleveland Heights in 2000, we were somewhere around 50,000. We think we just fallen to about 50,000 population. Our nice green city guide from Cleveland Heights, as from the 2010 census, has us at 46,000, and the most recent estimate has us at 44,000. So the reason you're losing revenue is not from ed choice as much as losing population and losing students.
Yeah, and just to go back to the question regarding the facilities and the reduction. So yes, the schools did reduce their footprint. They sold the Coventry building for $1 to the library. While that is saving because now they're not having to pay for the upkeep and the maintenance of it, but just that is their reduction in footprint. They did not make any money off of it. And there are other buildings that they could be looking at selling. They have 3 other underused, not used for instructional purposes that are not, they're upkeeping and not using.
Thank you. Questions from some of our students here. The combined question, what happens to our sports if the levy doesn't pass? Will there be art classes? And what is going to happen to my school if the levy, I assume, does not pass? It says if the levy passes for a 7-year-old. Starting with the citizens for our Heights schools.
And so, and these are the types of questions that are heartbreaking to hear because we know this is stressful for our students. And we are going to do everything we can to protect the current programs that we offer for our students so that we don't have to cut our sports program that help our students build not only athletic skill and ability, but also leadership and life skills and ability, lasting friendships and lasting bonds that kids have forever. And we see that reflected in the Kelsey brothers and the recent Super Bowl champion talking about his valuable experiences in the Heights as a student and an athlete. So we will be protecting the great arts programs that we offer students. I was at Noble Elementary School today and I watched the 4th and 5th graders do a great musical based on a West African folk tale about why a mosquito buzzes. It brought tears to my eyes and it was just a great experience. And so without the levy, without the support, we will be having to make really difficult decisions as it relates to that. And I want to say one thing about the footprint. Number one, yes, we sold it to the library for $1, but we see ourselves as a community partner. And so we want to work with the community, with our buildings and our resources in ways that support everyone in the community who have access to those resources and buildings and opportunities.
Also, there are only 2 buildings that the district owns that aren't being used for instruction because the Taylor building is being used for many, many students every single day and being used well. I assume that was the 3rd.
Unfortunately, our district is heavily outmatched by the union in labor negotiations. And that's why we have salaries and benefits and pay practices that are excessive. Now, we want to pay our teachers, I think we all agree, we want to pay our teachers better than average. We want them to have good benefits. So we want better than average teachers and we want to pay them better than average, but not excessive numbers. And that's where we are. And we are totally outmatched. Our school board does not even participate in the negotiations.
And again, our residents have been generously funding these schools for decades. And they are, I mean, it's quite frankly no longer sustainable. And it's only fair that we ask them to compromise a little bit and quit coming back to us for more and more taxes. The community we've supported the schools for so long, and we just simply have to take into account our entire community, our low income, our retired, our fixed income, people that just simply cannot afford to live here anymore with these additional taxes.
Thank you. Relating to benefits and costs, and again, starting with the citizens side, will you be evaluating how to save money by asking employees to pay more for their benefits? And related, there's a story going around the community that previous superintendents are still on the payroll. Is there any truth to this story?
No. But also, and I think that speaks to, there's a lot of inaction. And I understand, if someone wants to prove their point and win the battle, but we have to make sure that we are saying things truthfully. We have been working in cooperation with all of our bargaining units around our costs, but also to Rob's point, we value teachers, we value our classified staff, we want to attract and retain strong staff. We know that this is a community that values teachers that have advanced degrees, that have doctorate degrees, and so that's something that we really seek in candidates because we know that that will provide an enriched experience for our schools. Our board is very active. They are the key stewards of all of this work. They actually observed the negotiations process this past year again in untruth, which makes me question many of the things we've heard tonight. And they can tell you everyone's contract to the letter, actually. So they're really, and this is something that is important for us, and a reason that we're able to reduce costs while maintaining our programs year to year.
And I would just like to add, because the other side keeps saying how generous our community has been, the community has been generous, and the schools thank you for that. The school district, the teachers, the administrators, the parents, and most of all, the children. Thank you for the investment that you have made in them.
Thank you.
However, you know, our fringe benefit rate is 49%. So take the salaries, which are not above average salaries, but way above average salaries in many categories, and now add 49%. So at $100,000 salary, or an administrator at 105, total cost is now close to 160,000. Add 49% for benefits. Now, no one in the private sector, even working at a good corporate job, is getting 49% benefit rate. That's in private sector, even nonprofits are not getting anywhere near 49%. And that 49% is $30 million. So 10% off of that number, just for example, that's $3 million right there.
I think we all know that there's been a rising cost of healthcare for everybody. Everybody in the community has had to pay more for their health insurance. And it is what it is. The costs keep rising. It's not getting fixed. But the Cleveland Heights, University Heights School District, the contribution from the employees is only 6% of the cost. So we are paying for 94% of their health care. We're paying not only for our additional costs for health care, but we're having to pay all the additional costs for them.
But 10 years ago, it was 0%. So we're working on it. It's progress.
Another explanation question for the Citizens for Heights Schools. Why does the Cleveland Heights University Heights Yes website, the Vote Yes website, say that the state underfunds our schools, designating us as wealthy? I looked on the Ohio Department of Education website, and we get $7 million more than Solon for disadvantaged and special needs students in our schools. Please explain.
So they don't designate the school district as wealthy, they designate the community. So we're in a really unusual position where we're a high wealth community and a high poverty school district. So all of that is sort of fed into the way that the state comes up with its formula funding, and that the state determines how much they think the community can support the schools itself. So all of that is fed into the formula.
Tiger Nation, do you have any differing information? No? All right. Moving along.
Wait, can I do that? Just real quick about being the high wealth. So one of the things that they look at is how much property tax revenue that we get, and we get a lot of property tax. So that helps puts us in that wealthy district. So the more property tax we have, the less money that we're going to get from the state.
Thank you. Related question, and we'll start with Tiger Nation first, for variety. If the state reverses ed choice, can the district opt to not collect all of the levy revenue? Or contrarily, since the levy was triggered by the ed choice voucher expansion, what advocacy have you been doing at the state level to address our unique situation? I was giving Tiger Nation a chance to respond first for a change. If the state reverses the ed choice voucher, can the district opt to not collect all of the levy revenue? And since the levy was triggered by the ed choice voucher expansion, what advocacy have you done at the state level to address our unique situation?
I mean, my understanding, if a levy passes, the school gets that money. I don't think there's any, they can't like send it back to the state or send it back to us taxpayers or give us a refund. I don't think that's ever been the case. So I think once a levy passes, the permanent levy, the schools will continue to get $8.8 million every year forever. And that's how it works. And then as far as advocacy, I mean, we have no position regarding the ed choice. We're here to represent the entire community of Cleveland Heights and University Heights and try to stop locally our overtaxation.
For the first point, the language on the ballot that everyone will vote on St. Patrick's Day says that you are voting to approve up to 7.9 mils in taxation. Every single January, school boards all across the state look at their property taxes and they take a vote, and school boards vote on how much of the allowed taxable millage to accept. Now granted, school boards take all of it, all the time. But if we were to be in some wildly extraordinary circumstance that no one in this room expects to be reality, where suddenly the state found millions of dollars and said, oh, we're going to pay you back for the $7 million you lost last year, and guess what? You're not going to be on the hook for the vouchers that we're currently on the hook for until the year 2032, and they really shocked everybody. Then the Board of Education has already committed to to re-evaluating what the need would be and not necessarily taking the full 7.9.
From an advocacy perspective, we are actually the lead advocates of this work in the district. This started in November when the board did a conference sharing the impact of ed choice, and it sounded the alarm statewide. So all this activity that you're seeing started because of the Cleveland Heights University High School Board. All of us have been to Columbus advocating, students, staff, myself, board members. Our treasurer is there right now. I know I had a parent who was there very late into the night last night.
Thank you. For the citizen side, if you know, why was state money not used for the construction / rehabilitation of the high school?
Oh, I'm sorry. When you said citizens, I thought it was them because I think you're Tiger Nation. So I know that we passed a bond for that. We can't use state monies just because we need the money for the building, so we have to use that money as designated, any funds as designated with the guidelines for spending.
Right, and maybe that they're asking why didn't we get a state allocation to go along with the bond issue. That only happens if the entire Levy facilities plan that was laid, or the master facilities plan that was laid out in 2013 is completed, which would mean renovating the elementary schools as well. And I think then that would allow the district to maybe apply for some reimbursement from the state, but I think that that's a separate issue because that's about a bond issue and not the levy.
Just the bond was for $135 million over a 38-year period that we are paying. In totality, that bond will cost this community over $300 million with interest.
Thank you. I don't believe you have addressed this in your answers. For the citizens group, I have been seeing comments online about the percentage of students in Cleveland Heights, University Heights, who attend private or religious schools. Would you like to address the fact of that and the impact of that on the Heights schools, if there is any?
Well, I think that these communities are diverse in a lot of ways, and I think that we're diverse in the choices that we have available to us and the choices that we make for where we send our kids to school. I think that families have had long traditions of opting for to send their kids to private institutions or to parochial schools, and our campaign and the school district is not against that. We're not against private school families. We're not against people making those choices. The true impact on us has come from the loss of dollars that were allocated to the school district that are now being siphoned off and sent via a choice to private and parochial schools. And we believe that if it continues, it is going to continue to devastate school districts all across the state. But if the state wants to fund private and parochial school education, the state should do it directly.
But we know we have about 1,400 students whose vouchers we're currently paying for. 94% of those students never set foot in any of our schools. So our money loss is really due to, we're not losing students from the community, we're just losing money due to ed choice.
Well, there are some 8,000, should we say 80? Some 8,500 students are eligible age students in our district, and about 5,000 go to Cleveland Heights public schools. So many others have chosen other type of schools to go to. And I think as a community, we have an obligation and to think about all the kids and to have some concern about the education for all those children. And remember, if those other 3,000 kids were going to Heights public schools, we would probably be bankrupt. There's no way we could afford at $22,000 per kid to educate another 3,500. Okay, I'll make it 20,000. I'll be conservative and say.
I mean, we know that the rate is 14,000. The Ohio Department of Education lists our rate as 14,404 because of the percentage of special ed students. If the kids who are currently using private and if the students who are currently using private and parochial schools enrolled in our schools, our special ed population percentage would go down.
I have the Ohio Department of Education financial statements shows exactly what the expenditure is. That 14,000 is an interpolated number. It's a creative marketing number. It is not a financial number.
And I will add, this is my time, I will add that the 3,500 additional students, those families are all paying the property taxes. They've been paying it. They live here. They choose to live here knowing that they have to pay the property taxes. So let's not vilify all the families that live in this community. We all pay property taxes. And it all goes to the schools.
We saw time, Dad.
Sorry. This is addressed to the Tiger Nation group. If Levy does not pass, what plan will you present to the district to ensure equity in our schools without cutting programming?
Again, our recommendation is to engage the state auditor and have a performance audit conducted. We know that there's got to be cost savings there. Let them come in, have professionals come in from an outside view and look at ways to cost save. This hasn't been done, and so they just keep coming to us for more money. So I will put an instance, Cuyahoga Falls School District had one conducted. They have a $55 million per year budget for 4,700 students. They were able to find $5.5 million in cost savings. So that's 10%. If we could find 10% cost savings within our $130 million budget, that would be significant. So let's engage them. Let's engage and find out how we can do some cost savings.
Thank you. For the citizens,
Get that going.
oh, you may, yes.
Can you restate the question?
Probably.
If the levy doesn't pass.
Yes, sorry, yes, if the levy does not pass, what plan will be presented to the district to ensure equity in our schools without cutting programming?
We're very proud of the fact that we're the first school district in Cuyahoga County that passed an equity policy, but we know that equity isn't free and it takes resources. We are going into the second generation of our equity work. It was a part of our first 5-year plan and will be a foundation of our second 5-year plan. But without the levy support, the equity work that we are doing is definitely at risk. So our ability to make sure that all of the needs of our students are met and that all of our students achieve at the highest levels and all of our students have great experiences is certainly at risk. So for example, if we have to go to a pay-to-play model for athletics, we'll have large populations, a large number of students in our population. To your point, those students that are low income, though it is not 90% in the high school, that's another wrong number you've been spewing. But students will lose the opportunity to have those type of life-changing, important, monumental experiences. So we're committed to the work. We've been doing great work with equity. We know that we have some challenges ahead of us. We look forward to addressing those, but we certainly need the levy to pass so that we can plan for that. We can plan both short-term and long-term for that work that is of value in our community. Not only has our district been involved in the equity work, so has the library, so have our city councils, so has our community, and we want to continue to have that type of support.
Thank you. For the citizens group, how does the school district verify that all of the students in the schools are residents of the district? Are you certain that they are?
Yes, we do have a process where we, not only from the enrollment process where we do verifications, but also as students, we do a verification of addresses through mailings. We go out to homes to verify that students live in the district as well. So that's something we know that's a part of fiscal stewardship and protecting our financial assets and making sure that we're serving our students. And, you know, families have experience having to, you know, show residency if there's been a question about where a student lives. And so we definitely have that as one of the financial control and processes that we have in place.
Final question. For both sides, ask your nation first, it's a direct question. Where does the money come from to fund your campaign?
Yeah, and that's a great question. So our group is 100% funded by the residents who live in Cleveland Heights. We've had zero money, zero efforts from any outside special interest group. So 100% of our donations and funding has come from a resident who lives within our community, because we are deeply concerned about the future of our community and how this taxation and being in the highest 1% is going to devastate the most vulnerable people that we need to keep in their homes. The people that have lived here for decades have been paying these taxes and can't afford to be here anymore. This is who we are here to protect. We're looking at the entire community. We want to protect our schools, but we need to protect the entire community.
I just want to say that I donated to our cause here. I've also donated to the schools, and I would certainly match my donation to our group, to the schools. But I don't, I can afford that. But I know many other people can't in our community, and so I'm volunteering my time and effort and money for them.
Our fundraising, so Citizens for Our Heights Schools is a committee of 8 parents. We represent kids who are from pre-kindergarten to Heights High grads. We all have children currently in school buildings, almost every building across the district. And we do a lot of grassroots fundraising. So the majority of our money comes from, all of our money comes from individual donations. We do receive donations from staff members. We do receive donations from administrators, and we do receive donations from the teachers union. All of those parties have a very vested interest in this levy passing, as I think is totally reasonable.
Thank you very much. And we now go to closing statements. And in reverse order from opening statements, we will hear our first closing statement from Tiger Nation for Lower Taxes. You have 2 minutes.
Just last night, I had dinner downtown with 6 young people, 6 bright young professionals, engineers, men and women, engineers in aerospace and computer sciences and medical services, and I was shocked that not one of them would consider living in Cleveland Heights. They were 20-something-year-olds. 2 of them were new to Cleveland, and the other 4 would not consider living here. And I didn't even have to ask them why when they said the taxes are insane. And I was too embarrassed to tell them that we were looking at increasing them even more. Let's understand, the district over time swam out to the very deep end of the spending pool, and we are up to our chin in expenses and debt. And now a ripple comes along on a $100 million plus budget, and they say they're drowning. But after you vote no, we will still be the most generous district in the state compared to taxes, compared to our incomes. We're not Shaker Heights. We don't have that kind of income. We will still have a new building, and we will still pay very high above average salary and benefits. Your no vote will send a message of hope to citizens, prospective homeowners, and newcomers that we do not want to be the #1 highest tax district, and that the unlimited increases are over. Thank you.
Thank you. And now for the closing statement from Citizens for Our Heights Schools.
I love living in the Heights. I love the sidewalks, the giant trees, and the century homes. I love the arts and culture, the small independently owned businesses, and the absence of freeways and strip malls. I love that after having lived in Boston, Los Angeles, and San Francisco, I could afford to buy a house here with a nice big yard where even with the tax rates, I knew I was getting an incredible value for my dollar. I love the diversity of race and religion, of class and political perspective. But most of all, I love living in the Heights because of the public schools. But this is not a battle between public and private. When we vote on St. Patrick's Day, we're not choosing whether one or the other is better. We're not voting on whether or not vouchers should exist. The outcome of this election will have no impact whatsoever on voucher scholarships. Those have been guaranteed by the state, and this district will continue to pay them in full until 2032 or beyond because it has to. The only thing this election is about is whether we will step up and fill the $7.2 million hole that the state has dug for us. Whether we believe in the children of this community enough to invest in their futures the way that someone years ago invested in every one of ours. This election is about our values, about what matters most to us as we protect the communities we all love. Education is not an economic transaction. It's not about spreadsheets, profit and loss, and bottom lines. It's a human enterprise. And we can try to measure it, and we can shout and post about what's right and wrong with it. But at its core, Education is complicated and it's expensive, but it is absolutely and without question necessary. Necessary for every child in this room and every citizen in society. And to truly reap the benefits of it, we have to assume responsibility for it by easing its burdens, alleviating its challenges, and by funding it.
Thank you.
I'm willing to do that, and I hope you are too.
I'll take a few more seconds to say.
Okay.
I actually agree with all of that. I agree with all of that, but we need to do it for less money.
And this concludes our issue forum for 2020. Thank all of you for coming here. Thanks to our volunteers.